People, we're back in Portsmouth, and this week we've got Gareth Webb of Fairways.
There's a national crisis at the moment. There's a shortage of over 5,000 foster carers across the UK. At any one time, there's more than 100,000 children in the care system, and every 15 minutes a child comes into care. The most crucial parts of the care system is fostering. If they can't go to immediate family to be cared for, you want them into a family environment where they still get or start to get their needs met still. The Fostering Network, quite a few years ago, set up a Fostering Friendly Employer initiative. And what it is, it's going to businesses to say, look, we need more foster carers. Let's beat the myths around that you can't still work full-time and foster, because you absolutely can. There's so many different types of fostering, and actually can we get business on board to support their staff, so if they ever wanted to foster or they do foster, that we allow a bit of support.
You've been working with them, you've been trying to give them everything that you've got, but when they hit 18, are you still connected with them, or then do they go their separate way and then run the risk of being open to whatever happens?
I guess this is the controversial part about the care system. You know, they call it the care cliff edge, which is
Gareth, we made it.
we did. Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, welcome to the show. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
What's Going On show. I'm excited for this one. Yeah, I've been seeing, obviously, Fairways on the hill, call it that way. Because I'm living South Sea, it's on the hill for me. So I'm like, oh yeah, one day. But yeah, cool. So welcome to the What's Going On show.
Thanks for having me.
The show where we shine a light on people doing things in communities. And you yourself, you're part of Fairways that are doing something massive in the community, really. So we're going to go a bit into that today and a bit about you. So, little tradition I've got in this show is, instead of me giving you an introduction, I like to just give it straight over to you. So, who in a nutshell is Gareth Webb?
Gareth Webb, wow. So I'm the managing director of Fairways. I've been with Fairways for about 20 years. I started off as a support worker, and I've sort of worked my way up and been on the journey with Fairways to create, I guess, the Fairways what it is today. And we've got sort of around 500 staff now. We've got 17 regulated services, from children's homes to special schools to fostering. Prior to that, I'm born and bred Portsmouth. I've got 3 lovely children, married. I'm a granddad now as well. I know I don't look like it, but I am. And I've got 2 crazy dogs, yeah. But I'm born and bred Portsmouth, yeah.
Born and bred Portsmouth, love that. So, it's interesting. So, we'll go a bit back. We're going to dive into that. So, was you with Fairways since the beginning?
I was. So, before Fairways, it was called Cornerstone. And it was a childcare agency based in Southampton. And I sort of just fell into the role, really. Before my career with Fairways, I've had lots of different jobs. I've worked, I've done door security, I've worked personal training in gyms, and I was training a guy one day in the gym, and he worked for Cornerstone, and he said, "Oh, you'd be great with the young people. You know, we too. I do secure escorts, so you take young people from secure accommodation, so like a children's young prison, so to speak, to court and up and down the country. And because they're children, they're not handcuffed or anything, so you have an escort team, two adults and a driver." And he said, "But with your experience working on the door, you're great at talking to people and calming people down." He said, "You'd be great with the kids." So I was like, "Right, get me in." So I went for an interview and I got the job, and I just loved it. You know, these, at the end of the day, they're still children, and they've been through trauma and things have happened to them. But you'd be on the road for like 18 hours. You might have to pick them up in a secure unit in Manchester, bring them back to court in Southampton and then back to Manchester. And that's like 18 hours on the road. And you just really get to know the children, build relationships. And that was it then. I think my passion grew. I finally found something I enjoyed. And then I started picking up outreach work with young people with autism in the community and young people with disabilities. And I just loved it. And I found it really rewarding and felt like I was making a difference. And then at the time, one of the directors there, called Mac McHugh, who's our current CEO, he sort of broke away and wanted to set up Fairways. So he took a handful of foster carers and 1 children's home and asked me to come across. And that's how Fairways created. So I come across as a support worker again. Mm-hmm. And then I've just worked my way up through my career, and now I'm the manager and director. So I've been a big part of that journey of what we've created. And during that time, I think because I was so passionate about working with these young people, Fairways supported me to do 2 degrees in social care, and I've got a master's in education and management. And it's hard to believe because I hated school, and I was nearly kicked out of school. So, but then to achieve, I think for me, it's something you're passionate about, and then I've managed to sort of create my qualifications and knowledge, and found something I enjoy. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so cool. So picking up there then, so you became the managing director from the beginning. You said that, well, what I was getting from there is you found something that you were passionate about, but you said you didn't like school. So let's go back to school.
Yeah.
How did you find it?
I think it's because, like, I think it's authority, I guess, and feeling like you're being spoken down to and no respect. And I think I still, and that isn't an insult, but I still find that a lot in sort of mainstream schools. And that mentality, I've seen all my children, my oldest is 26, my youngest is 18, and my middle boy is 22, and I've seen them go through mainstream, and they've been very successful and gone on to have their own, start their own careers. But I think for me it was that, and I think what's the difference is passionate with these young people, they've been so much, and it's like respect, authority doesn't work. You need to get on their level and understand what they've been through and actually start to work with them, build relationships. And I think that's what's key for me. So I think that's why I found school, I think I felt a bit more older than my years, and I just felt like I was always, I guess, being spoken down to or treated like a kid all the time, when I think the most important time of your life is your teenage years. You're going through all this change and your hormones, and 1 minute you're in a mainstream school at 16, having to follow a one-way system and not allowed to go to toilets unless break time. Then you go into college where it's complete opposite. You treat like an adult, and there's no transition and support with that. And I think, and I've seen it with my own children. They find that difficult, and I think, yeah. So I didn't really like mainstream school.
Fair. So you didn't like mainstream school, so you came out, and then did you ever have a goal? Did you ever have a direction that you wanted to go in?
No, not at all. I think I tried different jobs. I tried engineering. My dad was an engineer, and I thought, right, let me give that a go. That sounds like a good job. And I hated it. I've tried, but I just didn't like being in a factory every day, clocking in, clocking out. It just wasn't me. And then I started getting into the gym. So then I got a job in a gym. I was like, oh yeah, I enjoy this. This is good, and it's something I was really interested in. And then I started working on the door, and that's socialising really, and get to know people and being out and about. And I think that's what I enjoyed. And then, like I said, I just fell into this sort of work and work with young people that's been through trauma and different life circumstances, and I felt I could just support and relate to that and just build relationships for me and treat them with respect. Yeah, so.
No, fair enough. I get it. So, okay, so something you're passionate about. How important is that in life? How important is that to go for something you're passionate about?
I think it's really important. I say it to my children. I don't care what you do as long as you're happy. I think we've got one life, one opportunity, and it's about what's your why. Why'd you get out of bed every day and make you do what you do? And you got to, we work for the majority of our life, don't we? So you need to find something you enjoy and passionate about. And I say that to even staff in Fairways. We've got some brilliant staff, but if any time you feel you're not happy, then move on. We support you to move on positively. You live once, and it's like the children we support and work with. They've encountered so much trauma. They've probably been in about up to 10 to 15 different placements. Foster carers. Imagine all that change. So when they come to Fairways, I always want it to be different. And I always say to the staff on induction, and my motto all the time, we've got one opportunity to make a difference. So I only want staff that want to be and are passionate about what we do, because we're playing with these children's lives here, and we've got to give them that opportunity and way forward. So for me, being passionate about your work is fundamental, especially what we do. We're working with children. So
yeah, no, big time. So, off camera and previously as well, you did mention that you was a group support worker.
A support worker.
A support worker.
Originally, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, how was the transition then? How was it going from support worker to then working within foster care?
I think I've been very fortunate, been given lots of opportunities to sort of work in different areas of the organisation, in different services. So that's given me lots of different experiences. I've always put myself out there, and I always push myself out my comfort zone. So I've worked, as a support worker in children's homes, and I've worked as support worker in behaviour support in our special schools that we set up. I've been a registered manager in our crisis centre that we set up in Wales. I've done outreach support for different fostering, so I've built up all different skills, and I'm very I've been given lots of opportunities, and I go, right, yeah, I'll give it a go. Yeah, I'll give it a go. And that's whenever I've been said, look, Gareth, do you want to try this role? And, do you want to try and work in the school, or do you want to try and work in support living? I'm like, yeah, why not? Give it a go. So I'm very big about pushing myself out my comfort zone to learn new skills, really, and build on my knowledge.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. So, all right, so taking us into sort of foster, how do you say it? Is it fostering or foster care?
People use both, so fostering or foster care, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I just had to get that out there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're going into fostering. Let's move on to the kids then. So, how many children has Fairways dealt with over the years? That's the first question. And second question, what is the stereotypical or main persona, or whatever you want to call it, of a foster child? What are they like? What do you expect when they come in? What have you got to look out for?
Well, I always say children in care are still children, and they need a family, they need a loving environment, and there's a national crisis at the moment. There's a shortage of over 5,000 foster carers across the UK, and it is a national crisis. And at any one time, there's more than 100,000 children in the care system, and every 15 minutes a child comes into care, which still, when I say it, that's still, this day and age, still just knocks me sideways, that every 15 minutes a child comes into care. And one of the most crucial parts of the care system is fostering. You always want a child to be, if they can't go to immediate family to be cared for, you want them into a family environment where they still get, or start to get their needs met still, and going into a children's home, it can suit some young people, but it's not ideal. We always want to look back to get a child into their family or a foster family. So it's so important that we have more foster carers coming to the system, and it's so important that we support the current foster carers. They do a fantastic job. So, children though that come into the care system, it's not their fault. No one ever asked for this. They've come into this world and they've encountered some sort of trauma or neglect, and it's just not safe for them to continue to live with their parents. So it's when you work with these young people, they still need that nurturing, and they still need that love and care and additional support, and they building relationships key, and having key people that can mentor them and guide them the way, and fostering is just key to that, and we just need more foster carers.
Fair enough. Okay, so all right, so when I was growing up, there was a programme called Tracy Beaker.
Yes.
And they referred
that, yeah.
right, and they referred to a foster home as the dumping ground. Now, to battle kids feeling like they've been dumped, what approach do Fairways take?
Yeah, I know the programme. Yeah, children's homes aren't Tracy Beaker, unfortunately, but there is a lot of stigma around young people in care, and we work in a very trauma-informed way. So we've developed our own, and we're developing our own model of care, and we've developed our own program for staff to how to really work with trauma and understand. And there's different ways of doing that, and that's key. It's about building relationships with young people and building trust and safety. And once you build that and establish that, then you allow these children to be children again and hopefully start to explore some of the feelings that they're feeling or some of the decisions that have been made, and nurture them through that, I guess, and that understanding. But working in a trauma-informed way is really key with these young people, and allowing them to explore in a safe environment of what's happened when they're ready to, and how they can come with sort of the toolkit to support them through that, and whether that's therapy or some sort of additional support for them to understand their journey and how they move on positively.
No, that's one question that I did have for sure, because there is a big stigma around it, and when you do hear someone's been fostered, there is, even when I was younger, there is that, oh, what's happened? So I guess it's also, how do you integrate them with other kids, you know? How do you do that?
Like I said, children in care are still children, and you know, you'll probably be surprised when you go into a school or you were in class yourself that, you know, you may have had children in there that were within the system or that you didn't realise. And children are very resilient, and it's surprising, you know, they are very resilient, and they learned ways to cope and they learn ways to survive. And, you know, but what's important is that we allow them to mix with peers and other children of the same age, so they can be seen as normal, because they are normal. They've just had a bit of a different journey to or maybe their friends or other children, and it's, you know, they need to be treated the same and supported the same in exactly the same way.
Oh, I get it. So with foster carers, so with a foster carer, how does someone become a foster carer, and is there a criteria?
There is a criteria, and it is quite a long process, and it's a robust process, understandably, you know, because these young people have been through what they've been through, and then you want to ensure that you're placing them with a family that's safe and secure. So it is a very vigorous process. It's probably good. It takes a good sort of 8-9 months of applications and interviews and processing. And then once that's complete, and you'll have a social worker that supports you and guides you through that assessment process, and do all the different background checks. They go right into your background. You know, it's very invasive, and they need to understand what the potential foster carers have been through in terms of their own childhood, different types of relationships they've had. You know, if they've been married, divorced, and all that experience of what that's created them as a person needs to be understood to ensure that, one, they're safe to care for a child in the care system, but also that they can meet the needs of that child in foster care. So it's a very robust process, and part of that is why I think that it can be difficult to get foster carers, because there is quite a stringent process for them to go to, understandably. But there's many different organisations and fostering agencies out there. They're all brilliant. You know, we foster, obviously, but Portsmouth Local Authority, Hampshire Local Authority, they're all fantastic providers that provide fostering. So, and we've just started a campaign, a fostering friendly employer campaign in Portsmouth, so to try and get more carers.
Yeah, no, I understand. So what is that campaign then?
Okay, so like I said, there's a national crisis of foster carers. So the Fostering Network, quite a few years ago, set up a fostering friendly employer initiative, and they've got over 200 employees across the UK on their books. And what it is, it's going to businesses to say, look, we need more foster carers. Let's beat the myths around that you can't still work full-time and foster, because you absolutely can. There's so many different types of fostering, and actually can we get business on board to support their staff, so if they ever wanted to foster or they do foster, that we allow a bit of support. And that support it's free, it's easy. All it is to allow a member of staff up to 3 days a year to attend foster care training. So putting them through some safeguarding training, and so they understand sort of how to work with the young people better. And then the other ask is a bit of flexibility around their working hours. So same as you would with a normal child, you know, can I come in 2 hours late because I need to attend a child care review meeting on Tuesday. Yeah, sure, okay, mate. But it's just understanding a bit of flexibility in the hours to support that child. So it's really easy to do, and it's free to do. So I contacted the Fostering Network and said, right, I'd love to support this initiative and I want to drive more businesses. Would you mind? They're like, yeah, brilliant, Gareth, Fairways, go for it. So I thought, right, I'm going to target Portsmouth, our hometown, and where we're based, and I'm going to try and sign up 50 businesses in the local area to become fostering friendly. The Fostering Network were a bit shocked. They thought that was quite ambitious, 50 years. They've been running it for years and they've only just over 200. So I announced it at the Portsmouth Business Awards this year, and the response has been outstanding. One, it just makes me proud of being part of Portsmouth, but I've met so many fantastic businesses, and we set the target of 50, and about a week ago we smashed it. So we've got over 50 businesses in the local area that have signed up to our charter, where they will support fostering and allow staff, if they want to foster, up to 3 days a year off and some flexibility. And it's about just raising that awareness. So it's been brilliant. So it's going really well. We're getting lots of support, and now I've increased the target to 75. So we're going again, but it's going really well. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh no! Congrats on that. Hey, that's amazing to hear. That is good. That is good. I think it's needed. It's needed, especially if there is a crisis and a shortage.
Also,
go for it.
What is really exciting is that, looking at the Fostering Network and what we've achieved, and you look at the sort of locations, we will be the only city in the UK with the most businesses that are fostering friendly. So we are soon to be, hopefully, the first foster friendly city in the UK, which is outstanding for Portsmouth. And really puts Portsmouth on the map. So again, a big thank you to all the businesses to raise awareness for just some of the most vulnerable children in our society. So.
Big time. That'd be amazing. I know. Big up Portsmouth. You know what I mean? Okay, then cool. So back to fostering now. So you said that you don't need to you can work part-time. You can just work as a full-time carer. Now, as a full-time carer, do you get what do you call it? Do you get paid to be a carer then?
You do, yeah. There's sort of it's set by the local authority, and there's fees that carers get paid. So, and what that is, a lot of that goes to the allowance to the child. So so towards it could be school meals, uniform, clothing, presents, holidays. So it's an allowance as well as being paid to support the child through an additional support they might need throughout that time while living with that family.
No, yeah, because the reason I asked that, because I'm aware that they do get paid, but my question on the back end of it is that regulated? Like, do you know that they're actually paying for the school stuff, the meals, the holidays for the kid, or are they paying for themselves?
No, it's absolutely regulated. So for example, we're regulated by Ofsted, so we have inspections for our foster care department. And we've received outstanding in all areas. So so we've done exceptionally well with fostering. But yes, highly regulated. So as well as you'll have your Ofsted inspections regularly, which will look at everything from carers' notes to payments to the supervising social worker. So each foster care also gets an allocated social worker in Fairways, which supports them throughout their time as well as caring. But all the regulations, the governance, the safeguarding is all monitored by Ofsted regularly. And then as well as that, we'll have additional audits as well. So you'll have different regulations that come in and do various audits. So it's all accredited, governed and overseen. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because I was itching to know that. Yeah, because I'm always like, well, how can they tell? Okay, so that's regulated, which is good. That is good. Now, when someone is fostering a kid or a child, how long, let's say they foster a child, they soon find out that they don't like the child. It's not gelling. What then happens?
Okay, so first there's lots of different types of fostering. So you can foster long term, where you're looking to support a child, long term and up into adulthood. There's short-term fostering, where the child might, for example, only be taken into care for a short period of time and with the plan of going back to family. So it's a short period. There might be emergency fostering. So a child needs to emergency accommodation and emergency family like now, and then that would be assessed, and that could be short-term again. So there's lots of different types of fostering, and so many different types of carers we need. Not one child's the same, and not one carer is the same. But part of that vigorous process I spoke about was getting the matching right. And so when we look at the child, we really look at their needs and what their care needs are, interests, their cultural background, and then they will look at care. They won't just place with a carer. They will need to ensure that they get the matching right to give that child the best possibility of success in that family. So once that process has gone right, gone ahead, and we get the correct matching, then that child will then live with that family for whatever's agreed, whether it's a short-term placement or long-term placement. Obviously, like any family or any child, things change, and there could be crisis points for whatever reason for the child. And so if things are getting challenging, we would put support in, and we would look at and we would do our utmost to try and keep that family together. And unfortunately, there are times where the placements break down, and then the child will need to then be removed and placed and then re-looked again for another family in a matching. And sometimes there's lots of reasons around that. It's not for the care of trying. Sometimes it can be simply that the child's gone through so much trauma that when they get to a point of settling and feeling close, then they want to reject, unconsciously or consciously, for the survival skills that they've built up through their life in that trauma they've dealt with and why they were removed. They then, that's quite common. They start to feel safe and comfortable, and this doesn't feel comfortable, so they start rejecting and doing as much as they can to break the placement down. So as much as we're trying to put support, therapy, and different therapeutic interventions, there are times when unfortunately placements can break down. But also there's times where placements do extremely well, go in short term and end up living there past adulthood and really cemented into that family. So.
No, that is good. I mean, let's just say a relationship did break down. Is it immediate removal, or is it like a notice period?
Generally, it's a notice period.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we try and do like a bit of a transition and a bit of a planned ending as positively we can. There can be emergency endings. They're very rare, but that's generally if the child's really put themselves at risk. Where we may need to immediately remove them to ensure that they're either out of that location. It could be something that they're putting themselves at risk in the community. Not the carer's fault that they just can't keep them safe, and for that child, it's better taking them out of that community and placing them so they're out of the way of what's causing them risk in that community. So there can be times when it's emergency, but it's generally sort of notice periods.
No, that's fair enough. That is fair enough. So, that was what I was going to say. So I remember you touching on earlier that the aim is to obviously get them back into their family.
Yeah.
Is that one of the aims? Could I say that?
Yeah. If it's deemed safe enough and the local authority and social workers feel it safe enough.
Does that come around often, or is that few and far between?
Yeah, it's it does happen, and we've happened that many times in our care. It may be over a long period of time, but maybe just because a young person's taken into care, it's still their mum and dad and their parents, and they still love them. And so there'll be times when that contact's still continued, supervised. So they might live in one of our placements, but they will have supervised contact or unsupervised if it was deemed safe enough with that with them parents still. But maybe as things change for parents and things have changed for the child, that actually what's happened in the future, teenage years, they end up going back home, because things have changed, circumstances have changed, and it's deemed safe, and it's a best interest for the child, and the child wants it. then day when children start to get older and 16, 17, they start making their own choices again. Then and so yeah, there are circumstances. If it's agreed and it's a part of the care plan, we will always look to work back towards getting children back to families.
I see. I mean, on that then, because obviously, as part of fostering, if the aim is to get them back in the family, the support for the family is just as important as the support for the kid. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
But what support is given to, say, parents?
I guess it all depends on need, and every parent's different. But there's lots of different programs and support and interventions that can go in for parents. And one of them, we've actually got a residential family centre. So as part of one of our services is we can take parent and baby, or parents and baby, into our assessment centre for 12 weeks, which are generally ordered by the courts, and then we will assess with our social workers really if it's deemed safe enough for them and they can care for their baby appropriately. And then all the assessments and reports will go back to court, and then they'll either agree, yep, baby's safe, and off they go, or baby's not safe and baby's removed. So we've got that process, which we break the cycle. We're looking at how we break that cycle. But a part of that journey is through them 12 weeks. There's lots of interventions that we do with parents to support them, to give them the best opportunity to ensure that they can care for that baby. So different programs where they'll look at everything from how you hold a baby properly, how you feed the baby properly, how you should attune to a baby, how you play, interactions, communications, to ensure that baby gets the best from their parents. So there's lots of interventions we do with parents to ensure that we give them the best opportunity. And if they're able to or willing to engage in that, then hopefully we get the right outcome for baby. So.
Okay, well, no, that's fair enough. Okay, so cool. We all read a bit of tabloid news. We all read a bit of news here and there, but it might be a myth. It might a bit. Here we are to debunk it. So, I've heard that because of detachment and lack of a support system and lack of parenting and the support structure, a lot of kids in foster care can get involved in crime. But is that a myth, or what would you say to that?
I think that they're absolutely more vulnerable. I think young people in the care system are more vulnerable for a lot of reasons, and generally because of the trauma that they've been through. So they've not necessarily got the them skills internally to identify risk, and at the end of the day they want relationships and they want to be wanted. They want some identity and they want to feel part of something. And when you're vulnerable like that, you can tend to find that the predators out there, the gangs, all the different sort of the people in society that you wouldn't want young people mixing with, get drawn to that, and that's worrying. But I think it's generally worrying in this day and age anyway. With technology, the internet, everything, of how easy accessible it is to interact with children, which is really scary. So they are more vulnerable, absolutely. And you look at especially the gang culture. A lot of that is about when I've spoken to people that have been in gangs and do talks and work with our young people, they just wanted some identity. They wanted a family, and they weren't getting that at home. So they wanted to feel belong and feel like they looked after and wanted to achieve something, and these gangs can give them that. But exploiting that and using it to their advantage, really. They are, I would say, definitely young people in the care system are absolutely more vulnerable to that.
Yeah, because I wanted to touch on there, because I also heard that once young people reach the age of 18, let's say, for example, they've been influenced or surrounded by gang members and bad people in society, let's say, they're influenced, they're taken in, they've got that sense of identity. You've been working with them, you've been trying to give them everything that you've got. But when they hit 18, are you still connected with them, or then do they go their separate way and then run the risk of being open to whatever happens?
I guess this is the controversial part about the care system. They call it the care cliff edge, which is, it's really sad. I think young people are set up to fail. At 18, and what happens is, and we're finding this now, we support young people, and they get the support in children's services, 17 and a half. This is realistic, and what's happening right now is they're being told at 18 everything's going, all your services, it's being cut, and you're going to be placed most likely in a support accommodation or a bed sit somewhere. So all them relationships and all that learning you've done, is just switched off, and it's really sad. And when you look at the stats, you look at 49% of the prison system was filled up with adults that were in care. You look at the homeless population, 48% of them, in Portsmouth commercial, right, they were in the care system. They're set up to fail. My children, 26, 22 and 18, they still need support and care, and they still need positive mentors, and people in their role to guide them through life. They're expected to be independent from 18. 18, you're still a child at 18. You haven't got these life skills. It's absolutely crazy, and this is where we need change. And there's a lot of great people out there. There's people like Chris Wilde that are really advocating for young people in care, and was in care experience himself. That the system needs to change. It's setting these young people up to fail, and that's the real sad part. And that's what we find challenging. But it's like the fostering initiative. That's going to be my next goal. Is what are we going to do as a community to try and break that cycle? What can we do as a charity to come up with services that we reinvest in to support these young people? We go above and beyond as Fairways and continue to try and support these young people past 18. We're advocate for them. We're still keeping contacts. They know they can, but actually, this is a wider issue, and we need to come up with something. And again, I feel it. Us as a business community, how can we come up and give these young people job opportunities, experience mentors, help them succeed? At the end of the day, these children, these young adults are our future, and it's we need to make a difference. So, that it's really sad, but. It's certainly I'm very ambitious about trying to do something about it.
But why is it not? It's always been the case, but why do you think it's not been dealt with today?
It seems like it goes through the same cycle. I've been in I guess this sort of childcare sector now for 20 years, and it's the same story from the government. Things have to change. They do a big child care review and look at all the issues, but there's just not enough funding from the government to make these changes. I think everyone's in agreement, and everyone's when they read the report, and then nothing's done, and then a new government are coming, and then people change again, and it's like and that's a challenge. Like I said, a great guy called Chris Wilde, he's done the childcare review. He's supporting Josh McAllister with that, and they had a big committee, and the work that they created and the outcomes they got and recommendations were brilliant. Has anything been done? And that's a challenge.
Yeah, wow. So 2 steps forward, 10 steps back. Yeah, it seems like that. Well, will the cycle be broken? That is the question, eh? Okay, cool. So what is the future then of Fairways? What have you got planned?
Future? Take over the world? No. What's really exciting is that most recently we've really defined our core services and where we want to head over the next 5 years. Our main core services are education and working with young people that have been excluded from most specialist schools. And not in education anymore. So we've got 3 specialist schools that take up to 25 young people, but we offer a bespoke, individualised curriculum for all these young people. It's Ofsted regulated, and they're doing exceptionally well. And we've got a waiting list come out on our ears. Our second core area of business is residential, so residential children's homes and supported living for 16 plus. And again, we know there's a big shortage over the next 5 years, and we know Hampshire have got a shortage for residential beds, so we know that's our core service, and we're good at what we do. And then our third one is family services and fostering. And we know there's a national shortage of fostering, and we want to ensure that we continue to try and build on that. So we're really key on where we want to go. We've got opened up some new services in Wales where we do our crisis intervention, and we've opened up our first sort of long-term children's home. So we want to grow, but we don't want to grow for the sake of just growing. It's about offering what we've created as pathways for young people. So we're really, I think that's what makes us different to a lot of other providers out there. We can take a young person in crisis and we can offer them a transition pathway. So we can offer a step down into residential care, and then we can step them into fostering or supported living. And around that, we've got our education service and our outdoor pursuits to support their curriculum and build on their resilience and etc. So we can offer a pathway for children. So we haven't just got residential or a foster. We've got a whole pathway we can offer a young person over years as well. So, and we're keen on continue to build on that, not just improve it, but how do we then maybe create that model in Wales and elsewhere to ensure that we can support more young people and give them great life opportunities moving forward. So really keen on our core services. Another area that we're really keen on doing is developing our own model of care, our trauma-informed model of care. So we're just in touch with a consultant in America, Patrick Tomlinson, who's supporting us with that development of how we really work with trauma and how do we have a model that's consistent across all our services. And also linking to that, I've just linked up with 2 universities and Tavistock to try and get some research to underpin that to give it some credibility. So we're really excited, and we'd love to be sort of industry leading in the model of care that we develop. So really exciting, lots going on.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's good though. Yeah, that is really exciting. Okay, well, we could put a pin in it there. I've really enjoyed this section. Yeah, I really have. Finding a bit about yourself and obviously what Fairways do. And yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next. I'll be following closely. Yeah.
Thanks, Alec. Really I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. But yeah, let's go on to part 2. Gareth, welcome to part 2.
Hello.
And yes, part 2, we go out into the community and we ask a question. You don't have a clue what it is, so I'm quite excited to show it to you. And see how this part works is when the video's playing, feel free to stop it at any time, react. We can watch it until the end. It's only about 2-3 minutes, and then yeah, we'll have a chat afterwards.
Okay.
Depends what you feel. So, without further ado, welcome to part 2. Should foster kids carry on continue receiving support after the age of 18?
Definitely some sort of support, yeah. 100%, don't you think?
Yeah. So I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if they weren't fostered, there'd likely be an element of support from like a birth parent if it wasn't fostering. So yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, interesting, because apparently when they go over 18, all funds stop, all support stops, and some can even be deemed legally homeless. So what are your thoughts on that?
That's not right, is it really? Not at all. We're quite big on that kind of thing, aren't we?
Yeah.
So,
and having worked in supported housing as well, I've seen that side of it where they hit 18 and you get a PA or social worker for so long and then that stops. So yeah, there needs to be something in the transition, I think, between
100%, yeah.
being there and moving on, or yeah, I think so.
Should foster kids continue receiving support after the age of 18?
I think it's scenario based, isn't it? Because there is a lot of support for some foster kids and not so much for the others. But I think it's better to have support after as well, because it's individual dependent. So I'm not really, don't think I have enough information to say yes or no. But
should foster kids continue receiving support past the age of 18?
I mean, yeah. They haven't fully grown as adults. I think they need more support.
Should foster kids continue receiving support past the age of 18?
No.
I think they should, just not too much.
Why?
I think that should be like kind of their real mums, but they should like give them money to get a new house and stuff.
Oh no, I'm not even that. I'm just saying a bit of support, just a bit of support to get them started.
Do you think foster kids should continue receiving support after the age of 18?
Absolutely. After the age of 18, I'll use my own situation. I came to this country at age 18. I needed support. I didn't know where to go. Simple things like putting a CV together, or college, or anything, career-wise, or finances. Where do you go? All of that needs to come with some sort of a package, maybe. Just a little nudge to get them out there, because you need some guidance, don't you? Financially, learning-wise, career-wise, everything. You need some sort of support. You've got it all when you're being fostered, and then suddenly you're out in the world. I really think they do need support.
Right. That was the question.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I guess it's like I alluded to earlier. Really, this care cliff edge. It's really interesting to see sort of people's thoughts, because I think there's also a lack of understanding. I think some people think 18. You're an adult, and like I said, you look at these young people in care have not got that support network. They haven't. Everything from being able to shave to be able to understand their own hygiene needs, to be able to drive, to make the right decisions, talk through college decisions, how to open a bank account, and I think when I look at my own children, like I say, 26, 22 and 18, they still need ongoing support. They still need a family network, and some of these young people in care and foster care have nothing, and they're expected to go out in the big wide world and live. They haven't even basic stuff like budgeting, and how do you pay your rent, and what's council tax, and where do you go and get a TV license, and all these questions. Yet they've got no one to ask, give them guidance or support. So I think it's interesting to sort of say the lack of understanding, or from people out there, which is something I guess we all need to educate ourselves more about the challenges that young people face in care, because as I've said before, that this isn't their fault. They didn't choose this pathway, but these young people are our future, and we know they have poor outcomes compared to their peers. It's a fact. Like I said, you look at the homeless population, you look at the prison population. So what can we do to try and give them more of a positive start? So. It's interesting, and like I say, they call that the care cliff edge. All the funding, the support, even the relationships, is expected to end, and then off you go in the big wide world, and they wonder why they're set up to fail. So.
You said there, it's like, well, it's a gap in knowledge, it's a lack of understanding, and you alluded to earlier that they are just kids, they are the same. So how then can people be more educated on, the needs and the laws around people in foster care?
I think it's people like, I guess, us, Fairways, campaigners that are talking about it, raising the awareness. That's the whole point of this Fostering Friendly initiative, is to raise the awareness of the need of fostering and how the system is on its bones. It's every 15 minutes a child comes into the care system. But this is a part of a bigger problem, isn't it, in society? And it's it's people that talking about it, raising awareness about it, and understanding about it, speaking to businesses, employers, really understanding what's our part in this. This isn't a sort of turn your sort of blind eye to what's going on out there. It's down to us to try and make a difference, and make a change, and all come together collectively to understand what's the challenges out there, and how can we try and come together with support and offer opportunities to these young people.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I agree. I do agree with that. So but can they? I said there to someone, because I found out from someone who worked in fostering, that when they do hit 18, and you say it's the care cliff edge.
Yeah.
They can become legally homeless, which is unbelievable. But aren't there any support services out there for post-18s? I know Fairways does provide some stuff, but aren't there any aftercare provided?
There's definitely lots of different charities and organisations to support care leavers. Absolutely, there's some great organisations out there, and they can get signposted. But I guess nothing's mandatory and nothing's funded. So, and it's sort of first come on a first served basis, and there's just a lack of support. You know, if we're short of 5,000 carers, that just shows you how many young people and young adults are coming through the care system. So some of these services are great, but they're just understaffed or under-resourced or underfunded. So there are some great stuff out there, but we need more support, and we need the community to come together and support each other to put more resource and funding around these services to help young people in care.
It's not statutory, as the local government would say, is it? No,
it's not. And there's a big campaign at the minute. One of the Child Care Review put forward to the government about making care experience the protective characteristic. You know, because they've, you know, what they've been through and what they encounter, it is, you know, it does set them back. And actually, what a great opportunity this could be if we made it a protective characteristic to give these young people and young adults more opportunity. Yet it's not happened. And again, there's a few campaigners really pushing it, trying to get different, you know, local governments on side and pushing for it, but it's still not been approved. And why wouldn't you? I guess why wouldn't you? You know, and so yeah, that's a big that would make a massive difference in terms of raising the profile and support needed for young people, young care experienced people, and leaving the care system.
Big time. Well. Any last thoughts on the video?
No, it's interesting. It's certainly got me thinking about how do we raise more awareness around that and care experience, really. And I've got some ideas and projects that I want to move forward once we've done as much as we can with fostering around care experience in the community, and how do we bring business together to bring these care experienced young people that are leaving the care system opportunities in the workplace, and through accommodation. But again, it's how do we need to come together collectively. But so it's really thought provoking, and helpful to understand that we need to raise more awareness, definitely.
Well, Gareth, that brings us to a nice close then, yeah. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed today. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next and following you closely in what you do.
Thanks, Alec. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming in.
No, thank you, Gareth. Nice. All right.